today, charts today, comes to you from Fuerteventura in the Canary Islands. It's windy, Fuerteventura, strong winds. People are out kite surfing this morning, but let's get down and take a look at the charts.
So I'm back from my morning walk. It's great to be here in the warmth of the sun on holiday, but markets wait for no one, and there's a lot going on. Obviously, Trump's tariffs having a big effect. So seeing a lot of red on the screen. Let's start by looking at the US dollar. We see here on the daily chart, remember it's the medium-term chart, we've got a big potential upside target. That's the thrust, that's the uninterrupted thrust. And if we break to a new high, we activate that upside target, it will turn green. You'll notice here how this target was given last week and then activated on Friday, and bang, we just jumped there this morning. So strong dollar, that's very much the theme. That means weaker euro, sitting at 102.40 this morning. Downside target given last week and then met today, waiting for this bigger downside target, well below parity for the euro. So really quite key. Seeing similar moves, of course, the Japanese yen, sterling weaker as well. All these targets being activated. We're in a bear trend already, so we shouldn't be surprised to see that. Big casualty is Bitcoin. That's down nearly 7%, well, it's been down 7%, 6% now. That upside target was given and met. And then these downside, this is the daily medium-term chart. This is the shorter-term 60-minute chart. The downside targets were met very, very quickly. They were given again, really given overnight on the weekend, and then bang, just we've seen those moves. So really quite key, remembering Bitcoin is 24-hour traded. So if we look at the futures markets in the US, they've come back a little bit. They were off, certainly the Nasdaq was down over 2% earlier, but no surprises that we're seeing activated downside targets on the S&P E-mini, potential for around 6% downside. And on the Nasdaq, no clear target, but clearly looking toppy now, and about to mess with the daily cloud. We've got to hold that level that we saw last Monday. That's going to be the critical thing, and especially for a lot of tech stocks. Looking at the European markets, so the FTSE had broken and run higher, not as badly hit as some of the other markets. Word is that the UK will fare better on tariffs, but we are seeing here this upside target now unlikely to be met as we pull back and gap down this morning. Looking at the DAX in Germany, that's down 1.75%. We did have upside targets here, but now again, that's a changing picture. Tokyo badly hit, that was down 2.5%. Hang Seng not much changed. And if you look at China, again, not much change. But the Sensex in India, just noticing how we had this very good long-term upside picture for the Sensex, good upside targets, but these new downside targets kicked in the last few months. The Sensex has turned bearish on that medium-term chart. The long-term is still bullish, but turned bearish on that medium-term chart. The weekly chart is still bullish above the cloud, but the daily chart and downside targets. Don't be surprised to not see these targets being met, because they are downside targets counter to the longer term trend. But really it is quite key that we are just seeing the Sensex, which has been a darling of the last few years, actually underperforming. So that's quite key as well. In Oz, the Sydney All Ordinaries, big downside candle there, big fall straight to cloud support. No real warning of that happening in this chart, but actually we can see now we're testing the cloud, and what happens next is going to be pretty key. We will look at the energy mix in a minute, and we're covering it in detail for our lunchtime week ahead call with clients. But basically, we are seeing crude still looking in that downward trend on the 60-minute chart. But as I say, we'll come back to that. Some of the other commodities, we're seeing cocoa, that's down slightly below the cloud on the 60-minute, really stellar targets if we can break to new highs above 13,000, which is looking unlikely at the moment. And coffee actually has been really very strong of late. So again, we're seeing big moves to the upside there, upside targets for coffee. and the same on the daily chart, which has got this big trajectory upside targets and just reaching for the sky, so you can't ignore those targets. A lot of the other commodities though falling. Wheat down 1%, corn down 1.5%. Targets were met on corn, but now we've got this new downside target kicking in. Gold, that's been another significant mover in the last few days. That stronger dollar not really helping. And we have pulled back to the cloud here. We found support right on the cloud on the 60-minute. These upside targets very much in train. So on the medium-term chart, we've got this new upside target. You can do these on your Bloomberg, of course. Just type absolute go, or just type LIN after your chart, and then just go, and you'll get the targets on your Bloomberg. And you can see here, this target was nearly met. This one was given a long time ago. That's still got a long way to run. And this is the one that's in train at the moment, breaking just above 3,000 for gold. And of course, that will be psychologically important. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, notice these targets being met. This one not quite met, so it's just slight bearishness. When an upside target is not met, that's just inherently a little bit bearish. We nearly got there, found support on the cloud. Wait and see for the next targets. Taking a look at US yields, we've got the 10-year. We had this big upside target given back at 4.1% in October. That was to 5.2%. We've gone some way towards that, but we're pulling away from that now, looking a little bit like a little head and shoulders pattern there, meaning a downside projection to around 4.30, 4.3%. But notice on the 60-minute chart, we've got targets in either direction, so you'll just wait for the break. Looking at some of the tech majors, they're going to be very interesting to watch today. Of course, the big large cap stocks. Apple has got a new downside target. A lot of these stocks, Amazon looking still pretty bullish. These targets given back in September, October time, nearly met. Given back at around 180, 190 to 240, and we're nearly there. Taking a look at Microsoft, less clear, mixed picture there for targets. And of course, if we look at NVIDIA, that's going to be an interesting one. Really, what we've got to look for on NVIDIA is, are we going to break lower and activate this downside target quite a lot lower, or are we going to break higher? But it's looking like a move down, consolidation, break lower, and another move down. So we've just got to be very aware of that. And Tesla also looking pretty strong, actually. And if we look at the chart here, we're just waiting to see whether we can run again. We do have a downside target. A very mixed picture for tech. Got to really wait. This week's going to be very, very telling. Just a quick look at the energy mix. As I mentioned, crude is faring better this morning. We are seeing WTI leading Brent at the moment and pushing higher. That 75 level is pretty critical for WTI. US nat gas been a harder call, has been very volatile, a big jump up there, and really just testing the top of the cloud. This downside target was met, the upside targets were met, so it's pretty clear on the targets. Carbon is a bullish trend on the medium and short-term charts, but we are seeing a pullback. Take a look at your 1-minute charts if you're trading carbon. Notice these targets kicking in today in line with the trend. So carbon coming back into bullish mode. And here we see we've had quite a mixed picture this morning on TTF. So we had downside targets given first thing. They were nearly met. Then we got upside targets and they've been met. So really quite key. And last of all, a look at power. Again, we had a downside target given this morning, negated. All upside targets looking much more bullish than it was at the open. Remember, at 12 o'clock today, London time, we're covering European energy markets the week ahead, and we'll also look at any charts that any people want. So you'll have got the invite on the Zoom call of your client, and we look forward to seeing you then. So that's it for today. Have a great week, and speak to you soon. Bye for now.